What's going on, ladies and gents? Welcome along to today's video, and today is the first test ride from our new channel supporters, Riders of Bridgewater. Thank you very much. I'm taking out this Ducati Diavel V4. Before we start riding this, let's roll the intro. I think the first thing we've got to talk about this bike is the engine. It is Ducati's Gran Turismo V4, so it is not the one out of the Street Fighter. It is the engine derived from the Multistrada, and that's probably good because the Street Fighter brake horsepower is 208. Luckily this doesn't have that much horsepower, but what it does have is 168 brake horsepower, which is still pretty impressive for this performance cruiser naked style bike. But for me, the most important number is the torque, coming in at 123 newton meters. What does that mean for the average Joe? Well, the torque is where the grunt is on any bike, and I can tell you this bike is not lacking in the grunt department whatsoever. Currently got it in sport mode, 4th gear, and off that throttle it absolutely launches you forward. The sound of that engine and the exhaust just starts opening up really nicely. What Ducati have actually done for the Diavel is the front 2 cylinders, when you're under 4,000 RPM, those are the ones that are doing all the effort. So it's basically a V2, and then as you get above 4,000 RPM, the rear 2 cylinders will open up, so then you'll have full activation of the V4. Couple of reasons they've done that. Firstly, fuel efficiency. Obviously only running on 2 cylinders is going to save you some extra fuel, but more importantly, if you've ever ridden Ducati, you know that heat dispensation is a massive problem under the buttocks area, because the rear 2 cylinders kind of point straight up to your derriere. At city speeds like now, 30 miles an hour, 3rd gear, I'm at 3,000 RPM. It means only the front 2 cylinders are working, the rear 2 aren't, so that area is now keeping cool, and you can actually hear it if you just listen really carefully. I'm not sure if the audio is going to pick it up, but when you are riding under 4,000, it kind of sounds like a V2, a little bit luggy, a little bit vibey, and then you kind of get to that 4,000 and the tone of it changes ever so slightly, and it smooths out a little bit as well. This bike had 7 miles when I picked it up this morning, so I am going to take a little bit easy. New tyres, new brakes, everything. Just you know, the sun is finally out. Doesn't mean I want to start putting down bike like this on the floor. And talking about the brakes, we do have Brembos all round. Brembo Stylema monoblock calipers with 330 discs at the front. These things, if you want, are going to absolutely stop you on a dime. 1 finger braking for your everyday riding, and if you need to get stopped, 2 fingers, and that's all you need. We do have 50mm fully adjustable upside down forks, so city riding like this in traffic, sport mode, the throttle is a little bit snatchy, is a little bit on off, 1st and 2nd gear. So let's take it out of sport. I'll put it in urban. Need to release the brakes, release the throttle for it to activate. So how she feels now. Still a little bit choppy. Don't forget it is running off the front 2 cylinders. So what, let's pull over and have a quick walk around. I'm 6'1", 110 kilos. And this bike has a seat height of 790mm. As you can tell, I've got a really nice bend to my feet, both sides. Coming to traffic lights, to any stops on this bike, it's going to be no dramas. Zoe is 5'5", she sat on the bike and she said it was really comfortable and a good height for her. Ergonomics, when you are riding, you have got quite a straight bend from the hip to the knee. That's okay, not too bad. There's not a lot of pressure on the knees, the feet aren't trying to be underneath you. but they're not out in front of you like a cruiser. Very neutral kind of riding position like this. The tank is sculptured kind of to fit around your knees as well, which is really nice to see. There's no awkward parts that dig into the knees you do find in some tanks. Just look at the styling of this bike. Seems really short and compact. Looking at where the rear seat finishes in line with the rear wheel. It's got big shoulders at the front. It's got that big aggressive stance when you're coming towards it. I think it looks really, really good. They've actually gone very leery with the exhaust, with that quadruple outlet, single-sided swing arm, 5 spokes. Just look at this. We've got our indicators down here. Actually, the brake lights are situated up under the seat. I've not seen a bike come out of the factory with a rear section like that before. This is just a cover, so the rear passenger seat is always going to be there. Rear passenger pegs fold away, really nice to see, and there is grab handles that are tucked away as well. Sound test. V4. To put the Ducati official full aftermarket exhaust system on this, £5,500.
The Ducati Diavel will come in 2 options. You can have the Thrilling Black, which is this one here, or the Ducati Red. Ducati Red is going to be slightly cheaper, coming in at £23,600. The Thrilling Black will be £23,900. Being the performance cruiser style bike this is, there is luggage options and some comfort seats. They're going to set you back around £1,500 for those accessories, so don't be surprised if you're paying £25,000–26,000 for this bike, some comfort and some ability to carry your kit. If you look at what else is on the market on this kind of performance cruiser, obviously you're going to be thinking about the Triumph Rocket 3. That is also around the £23,000 mark. So if you're willing to spend that kind of money, it kind of comes down to, do you want Ducati or do you want Triumph? Let's get back on the bike and talk about the electronics within this machine.
One thing I am noticing is the foot pegs are very sharp and they do catch your legs on the inside when you are stationary. That's just muscle memory though. Either that or you'll learn the hard way. Let's look at some of the electronics on this bike then. Starting us off, we do have 4 different rider modes. They are going to be Sport, Touring, Urban and Wet. Before I explain the differences in those, some of the other electronics on this, we've obviously got Ducati's traction control, Ducati wheelie control and ABS. Those are pertinent to know because the different rider modes will adjust the parameters of those 3 for you. Sport mode is going to be your most aggressive. You can have the full 168 brake horsepower. Traction is going to be the least intrusive. ABS level 1 and then wheelie control at level 1. The main thing to note between the 4, Sport and Touring, you're going to keep your full 168 brake horsepower, and then Urban and Wet is going to drop down to 115 brake horsepower. So quite a considerable difference. Obviously when it is wet you don't need 170 brake, you're just going to end up spinning that rear wheel up and getting yourself into trouble. But the further you go down, so when you get to wet, everything sets at its highest. Traction, wheelie control, ABS, all of the stuff that this bike can help you out on, it will be the highest setting possible. To change the rider modes, on the left hand side you've got the rider button. You're going to push and hold on the inside of it. It's going to flash up on the screen. Push up and down to select which one you want. Push right again on that same rider mode button, come off the throttle, off the brakes, give it a few seconds, and then it goes into that new rider mode that you've selected. And then you know which one it's in, because in the center of the dash, just above the gear, it says Touring. We do have some lovely daytime running lights on this, 2 little C's either side. We do have a button on the left hand side to turn daytime running lights off if you so wish. I like to see any bike that you're expected to do some kind of touring on to have cruise control. Works nice and simple. Left hand side Push once to turn it on, and then once to set, and then up and down. Your typical cruise control. Keyless entry, which is kind of coming to be a standard across most motorcycles now. The screen isn't the biggest, it is a 5-inch TFT screen, but it is coloured, it's clear, it's a really bright sunny day today, and not once have I not been able to see the information displayed on the screen. The quick shifter in this up and down, it works seamlessly, absolutely no faults whatsoever, and it's really smooth as well when you are using it. Last few bits of electronics on this bike is really nice to see is there are actually little backlights to the switch gear on handlebar. When you're riding at night time, it just makes it so much easier. Via Ducati's rider app, this bike, if you pay for it, I think it's about £50 to £75 extra, does give you turn-by-turn navigation. So pay for it extra in the install, download the app, and you've got turn-by-turn. And when you are using the turn-by-turn on this, the screen will split in half. Half of the information will be your standard speed, gear, etc., and then the other half will be the turn-by-turn navigation. I've mentioned the shape of the tank kind of really nicely curves your legs. Well, this tank is 20 litres. It's pretty good for bikes nowadays. Ducati reckon you will get around 200 miles to a tank. Obviously, as everyone knows, that's how you're riding. Is it a spirited ride, should we call it? Are you just in sport and just getting on that throttle, or are you in urban, are you in touring, taking it nice and easy? With that 20 litres included, the weight of this bike is going to come into around 239 kilos, fully fueled, good to go. And this thing handles really nicely, just flicks from side to side, and you can't feel the weight. You add in that low seat height, that low centre of gravity, and this bike's going to be good for pretty much most people. There are some vibrations in the seat under that 4,000 mark, but like I said, as soon as you get above the 4,000, the vibrations drop down and it gets a lot smoother as well. This kind of neutral riding position is just so comfortable. It's just easy to ride, you kind of just sat on it nice. There's no strain on the back, there's no strain on the wrists. My knees are at a good bend. And because Ducati have brought the handlebars closer to the rider by 20mm, it just flicks. You can just really get on the counter steering on these handlebars and just drop it in. Remembering, bike's only covered 19 miles, the tyres are still well within their braking limit, or braking period should I say, so I ain't pushing it, taking it casual. That acceleration, even in touring, it just launches you. Well then, let's cover off my final thoughts on the Ducati Diavel, or Diavel, depending how you want to say it, a V4 with this Gran Turismo engine. Going around these tight, twisty back roads, like I said, it handles really nicely, low centre of gravity. The only real issue for me on these type of roads is this throttle. It is very on-off. Let me try it in wet mode, because I tried it in urban earlier. Okay, so we're in wet mode now, second gear. On and off the throttle, it does change that throttle response quite a lot, to the point where actually the on-off jerkiness isn't really there, so that's nice to see. So if you are going through a big segment of traffic, town, whatever it is, I would recommend putting it into wet mode, and then as soon as you get out the other side, put it back into sport or touring, and then you can have some fun. My MT10 was like that, very on-off on the throttle. Did get that ECU tuned and it sorted it right out, so potentially that is another avenue. But without spending any money, just put it into wet mode, no dramas. A couple of things that are annoying me with this bike: these mirrors kind of don't really want to go into the position I want them to. A little bit frustrating. Like I said, muscle memory, the rider foot pegs, I keep catching my leg on them. That's my own fault. It's just where I'm putting my legs. Suspension, really nice. I'm not having any issues with it over these back roads. When you do start getting onto the throttle, it's punchy. So now I'm out of the town, put it onto sport, and it just goes. Quick shifter, spot on, absolutely beautiful. Like I said, a little bit of choppiness underneath that 4,000 mark, kind of something you get used to. And then when you get through the town, you're at the 4,000 RPM anyway, so it's not a problem. The next big contender for myself will be the price of this bike, £23,500 before you add anything on. It is a lot of money. It is a lot of money. End of the day, you buy what you can afford, and if you can afford a bike like this, then it's not a lot of money, is it? Remembering, if you do want to do any form of tour and you want to put some luggage, you're going to have to add £1 or two onto it. So it's becoming a pretty expensive bike. But if you just want a comfortable sports cruiser, performance cruiser like this, and you can afford 23.5 grand, I'd have this. I would definitely recommend this bike. It handles, it flicks, it's comfortable, it's aggressive on the throttle, which is what I like. Brakes are spot on. So let me know in the comments box below, would you have the Diavel? Would this sit in your garage? Would it be your main bike, or would it be an extra? I don't want to jinx it, but I think summer's almost here. First week of April, eh? Only a couple of weeks ago, it was bloody snowing. If you have enjoyed this video, please make sure you like the video, but more importantly, subscribe to the channel. Plenty more videos coming. Videos like this wouldn't be possible without the channel supporters, and today, Riders of Bridgewater, thank you very much for letting me take out your Ducati Diavel V4. But before we go, just have a look at their demo fleet. Harleys and Ducatis. Look at all them. All these bikes will be coming on the channel. I will be doing a review on all of them. And Zoe, she wants to get herself on a few of the old V2s. Hey, until the next one, ride safe.